Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, and a fantastically warm welcome to you all out there to the, well, it's the Open Door webinar show from Property CEO. You probably guessed that because it says it on the screens behind us. But in case you thought you were somewhere else, that's what it is. Yeah, it's on Ian's screen and on mine. Ian, say good evening.
Good evening. Good to have you here.
Good stuff. Give us a wave if you can see and hear us. Give us a wave. Give us a hands up if you can see and hear us, please. Yes, hands are going up and down. We love it. Look, my name's Richard Clapson. I'm here with the other half of Property CEO. Some people say the stronger half of Property CEO, but not having that. I think it's equal at the very least. Mr. Ian Child. Anyway, look, it's great to have you here with us. And over the next 45 minutes, this is a 45-minute show, we're going to be taking, as always, a deep dive into the world of small-scale property development. Isn't that right? The better half, the more substantial half of Property CEO, Mr. Ian Child.
It's more than half, maybe. We'll leave it there. Well, yeah, it certainly is. We're going to be covering some of the latest news items. And in the Open Door series, we talk to a lot of the movers and shakers in the world of property, trying to find out what's going on out there. We'll also be shining the spotlight on areas in the property world where we think there might be an opportunity for aspiring property developers.
Wow, good stuff. Look, that's right. But above all, the important thing is we're here to have a bit of fun. This is our positive zone. It's a negative-free zone. Whatever's going outside on this mad, bonkers world out there, in here, we're going to be nice and positive, okay? No politics, can't have any of that. No parties, we're not having any parties. We're not going to talk about parties. We're just going to have a bit of fun. Why? Well, look, life is definitely too short not to. This is how we set up this Open Door show some time ago, many, many months ago, and that's what we'll continue to do. But we need you to join in. It is a question and answer show, so no questions, no answers. No answers, no show. Simple, isn't it, really? Just like us, just a little bit simple. Therefore, please put your questions or comments in the chat box. Keep the comments polite, please, if you can. And, you know, we do our best to get through and answer as many as we can. Ian, what's coming up on tonight's show?
Well, we're going to be looking at selling. So a lot of focus for property developers quite often is on the front end. How do you find deals? How do you get the money together? How do you build a team? How do you get credibility? All that sort of good stuff. But actually, one of the key things, obviously, is being able to sell the units that you build at the end of the day. So we're going to be focusing on that. Rich is going to let you know how you can put yourself in the best possible position to be able to sell your units and that essential due diligence that you need to do right at the start to make sure that you get it right and get that quick sale.
Is that what I'm doing?
Apparently. Now, it would have been quite surprising if I was going to read out something else there. That would have
thrown me. That would have thrown me. Yeah. I'd have had a go. Who's on the scene? Let's have a look. Will's on, Emily's on, Ricky's on. Hello, Ricky. Good evening. Sarah's on, Carolyn's on, Harjinder's on. He's a regular of ours. Philip's on. Dan's on. Hello, Dan. Mercedes is on. Jonathan's on. Malesh is on. Ramika. Hello, Ramika. Yvonne, Venus, Tracy, Jonathan. Quite a few of you. Dan says, good evening, gents. That's very polite, isn't it? Harjinder says, nice to see you this evening. Looking forward to a good show. Hello, everybody, says Ramika. Good evening, team, says Yvonne. That's the two of us. I think we're the team. Sarah says, looking forward to tonight. Really interesting subject. Oh, thank you very much, Sarah. Well, good. We are going to enjoy it this evening. It's going to be good fun. But first of all, what's in the news? And we're not talking about political news. We're talking about property news. So here's our regular newscaster. Let's go over to Mr. Ian Child with this week's news.
Should there be some sort of music thing going on in the background?
Yeah, what's the news at 10? It's like boom, 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 something like that.
Excellent. I think
go for it.
We'll manage with that. So first one here is Zoopla. Zoopla have got some interesting stats, but I mean it sounds like it's just the subject keeps on going. House prices hit another record high as demand surges. So basically this year, this is out today, demand for property has soared by 49% so far this year compared to the corresponding periods between 2018 and 2021. Interestingly, demand for flats is on a sharp upward trajectory. So remember when everybody was desperately trying to get out of flats during lockdown? Well, now they're trying to get back in flats. Interestingly, the suburbs remain the most popular spot, highest demand, and they reckon market is being boosted by office-based workers rethinking where and how they're living amid more hybrid working models. So that's that working a couple of days in the office and then a couple of days at home. Yeah, they're now seeing record high spike in demand for flats outside London. So if you're building flats at the moment, yeah, not a bad market to be in. And then I saw this, there's been some interesting things in the news about some of the hybrid and the online estate agents. So obviously there was a trend a little while ago. We saw people like Purple Ricks and so on come into the market, and it's kind of that no frills sort of online experience. Why do you need to pay an estate agent lots of money to sell your property? Interestingly, the share of that particular market dropped to 6.7% last year, down from 8% the year before. So despite having this kind of quite vibrant market last year, yeah, they went backwards while everybody else went forwards. And the assessment in here is that it suggests that perhaps sellers prefer the tangible, personal and reassuring approach given by traditional agents. So maybe a blip, but certainly I don't think their share prices are doing too great at the moment. But it's interesting, you know, when you think is it all about the fees when it comes to estate agency? Well, apparently not. It's actually more about the service. And then the final one I've got here is quite an interesting one. Again, it's similar, but it's about the market, and this is the rental market. This is in the Telegraph. They say the London rental market descends into the wild west of bidding wars. So lots of soaring figures in terms of basically the collapse in rents that were prevalent at the start of the pandemic, now being reversed, and prices are actually 3% higher than at the beginning of 2020. But the interesting thing for us as developers, I think, is not so much what's happening to the demand, the huge demand for rental properties in the city. It's why that has occurred, and the reason it's occurred, there's a number of reasons, but basically we've had a situation, booming house prices, stamp duty holiday. We've got all of the other elements, of tax element and the regulatory aspects that have kind of created problems for landlords. And basically, a lot of them last year thought, you know what, this is a great opportunity to leave the market. And so what's effectively happened is that kind of punitive tax regime for landlords has seen a lot of them leave, and therefore a lot of reduction in the number of rental properties available. So that's created the demand, and now people are kind of, yeah, they're saying here they saw it coming, that basically we've created the biggest housing shortage they've ever seen. So quite interesting what's happening in the market. A bit of good news, a bit of bad news.
I think you need to shuffle your papers like the news thing. I really think you make a good news reader.
And that was the news.
I don't know if this will work, but I've just found this. What about this? I don't know if this is going to work.
Okay, I think there's a word that springs to mind there. Oh.
There you go. That's the music. We're going to get that organised for you to do a little news intro every month. Good stuff. Roman and Jenny are late, but they said sorry, so that's okay. And looks like Roman and Richard are on. Good evening, good to see you. And a few other people are joining us as well. Damien's just joined us. Hello, Damien. Nice to see you as well. Good stuff. So this evening, getting quick sales as a developer. That's the subject that we said we were going to talk about. And we're talking about, you know, how do you know that what you're going to build is actually going to sell? Because you could put all this effort in, you could find the project, you could raise the finance, you could do a wonderful job of delivering it on time, on budget, at the right quality. But what if you don't sell it? That's not going to be too good, is it? So how do you know that what you're going to build will actually sell? Well, I often say this, and some of our students, I know you're on this evening, but those that aren't our students, the thing I'd always say is build in the need market, not the want market. Okay, that is perhaps the first, and in my opinion, the most important thing. Is understand the marketplaces. Where there's a need, you're likely to sell it, not the want market. What's the difference? Okay, the need is what I would say is 1, 2, 3 bed properties. That's it. We don't need anything above that. Okay, I mean, there was a program on the TV the other night. Someone said 22 kids and counting. Yeah, grant you, they need a bit more space. But you know, crazy people. But that aside, most of us, 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, we can survive in a 3-bed house. And what happens as soon as there's a downturn, as soon as there is a little blip or an issue or a bit of lack of confidence, whether it's Brexit, whether it's COVID, whatever it might be, then the want market stops. Those 4-bed houses that were, yeah, we're going to move up, we're going to get the double garage, we're going to get the detached house. The 5 beds, most of that is want. Okay, and want's quite strong, and want is a good place to be. But actually, if you want to make sure you can sell it, always make sure in the market where the biggest demand is. And that's the need market. The starter homes, the 2-bed houses, the 3-bed where they've got to move up from that. 1-bed, yeah, that's the first starter flat. The 2-bed houses where they go from the 1 to the 2, yes, the 3-bed, so on. But that's it. Bunk beds for the kids. You can survive. You can stick a conservatory on the back, horrible blooming things, but no, you can do that. Okay, and you can survive. So stick in the need market. I think that's the biggest single bit of advice I can give you this evening. So please remember that. But then you've got to look at the market. You've got to see what's going on out there in the market. And please, any questions on any of this, put it in the chat box as we go through. And it's all about the demographics. So who's going to buy? Who is going to buy what you build? So when we talk about that need market, you need to understand the need in the area geographically of what it's going to be. Is it young professionals? Is it downsizers? Is it families? Is it students? You know, students are not necessarily going to buy themselves, but an investor might buy for students, or mum and dad might buy it to put the students in. But if it's families, you know, you need to make sure you're building the right size, an appropriate house and the right facilities. One of our students came to us once with a scheme, said, I can get some 3-bed houses in here. We went, great, but there's no gardens. And he went, no, I can't fit gardens in. Well, who goes to a 3-bed house? More often than not, now you might say, well, 3 young professionals. Not normally. It's a family. What do family want? They want gardens. They've just moved from their 2. So you need to put a product in the market that suits those demographics. If it's young professionals, make sure they've got what they want. Good transport links. That's vitally important. You know, good cafe culture round and about. Can we get to the clubs? Can we get to the shops? Probably don't want a garden. Probably don't want, I mean, I don't like gardens, to be fair, so I'm a bit of an anomaly, but you don't want a garden. What about downsizers? You know, where do they come? There's a bit of a need market there, but what are you building for them? Don't think downsizers are more often not going to squeeze into a 3-bed house. They won't, because they come with big furniture and they want to keep it. So do you get my point? Purchaser demographics linked to that need market is vitally important. Put those 2 things together and you're starting on the track of what is actually going to sell. Okay, you want to make sure this sells. Now we can pick up some other things along the way. You've heard this so many times. I believe there's a TV program named it location, location, location. If you want to make sure that you're selling something, make sure it is in the right location. Has it got the transport links? Is it a place where people want to live? Amount of times I've had students come across, look at this bit of land. No one seems to want to buy it. Or look at this building. It's out and it's a real cheap price. Yes, in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to put some young professionals in there. Okay. Young professionals, go back to that demographics. So where's the nearest bus stop? Well, there isn't one. Train station, there isn't one. Is there a tube station? No, we're not on a tube. It's in the middle of the country. Generally, young professionals don't want to live in the country. So location is massively important. And of course, what's sold in the area? If nothing has sold in that area for a long, long time, why not? Maybe it's because stuff doesn't get sold very often. They don't come to the market very often. So it's a great opportunity, but make sure you understand that. And perhaps with that location, 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 what I can say, perhaps drilling into that a bit deeper, is what's next door? You know, don't build a brand new set of units, quite high end, I don't know, next door to a pylon. Who wants to live next door to a pylon? Hands up? No hands up. Look at that. You know, I bet someone's going to put their hand up just to try and wind me up. But, you know, you don't want to live next door to a pylon. You don't want to live next door to a noisy factory or anything like that. So that location and that point about neighbors is really important, okay? And then let's move on. What else is for sale? Because you might say, I've done the demographics, I've got it. You know, I know exactly who wants to live there. I'm in the need market, as Clapson said. I'm definitely there. I know all about that. Yes, I'm going to be building something for, let's just say, again, young professionals. I know they don't need gardens. I know it's the need market. That's what they want. 1, maybe 2-bed flats. Make 2-bed flats for young professionals. Both bedrooms about the same size. Don't have a box room and a big one. Doesn't work for young professionals. No one wants to go in the small room. I tell you what, if Ian and I bought a young professionals flat, that's what he would do. He'd make me, because I'm sure he'd make me go in the small room and he'd have the big room. And it's just like our offices here at Property CEO. I tell you what, if you ever come here, he's got the big office at one end and I've got the little cupboard at the other. It's just the way he likes to be. I don't mind. I'm quite happy with that. But you get my point, okay? Get my point on that. So you need to make sure what else is for sale, because if you're building for young professionals, and actually there's a stack of stuff coming to the market for young professionals, are you coming too late? Are you coming after the other developments? In which case, probably won't sell. And what about that parking? You may or may not need it. Car parking. You know, Does your market space of families? Of course they need parking. So if you haven't got parking, it's street parking. Is that good for families? Mum and dad getting the kids out on the pavement trying to, it's not. Make sure you understand all of this stuff. Good road links, good transport links is massively important, okay? So make sure, need market, understand your demographics, understand all of those other things, the location and stuff that goes around it. What's sold, what's for sale, what's next door, really important. And then the process of selling is often an afterthought. This point of, yeah, I've nailed all that stuff. So let's say you've nailed all that demographics, you're in the need market, etc., and nothing else is being built. You tick all those boxes. But what a lot of people don't think about is actually getting these units sold, that process. Now, it's integral to the whole process of being a developer. Part of what we teach is the whole process, and we teach this end sales process. And one thing there, which is really important, is keep your sales agent engaged from the beginning. Get your sales agent out there, get them on the journey, get he or she looking at the property as you refurbish it, and make sure they're coming in at the end, get them involved, because they buy into it. They are super optimistic people. We might have some agents on this evening, super optimistic people. We love that. I mean, a little bit too optimistic sometimes, you know, for when they're trying to give us some values. But what you want is to get them into it, get their interest excited, and they can go and say, we've seen this development. And pre-sales. A lot of people say, should I do pre-sales? Should I do CGIs? You know, should I have those images prepared of the buildings? Well, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes you should not be thinking about pre-sales. We teach a lot of conversion stuff here. You know, we teach new, but we teach people to be developers. But the sweet spot at the moment is converting disused existing commercial buildings. Some of them pretty horrendous, particularly if you go down the route of converting industrial buildings, which we specialize in, particularly here. Okay, they're really not understood by a lot of people, but they look pretty horrible. They look ugly. Now imagine you're going to start doing pre-sales. You put boards up, apartments coming. What's behind the hoarding? A pretty horrible, rundown looking industrial building. And people go, really? Do I want to live in there? Probably not. Now, pre-sales work quite well in hoardings for a new build site because they're all fresh, they're coming out of the ground. People can't see it. They can just see that horrible industrial building. Far better on an industrial building to leave as is. Take the hoardings down and whoa, what a lovely building that is. People don't even know it was the old building that was there. So don't pre-sell in those cases. And the same perhaps sometimes goes for dressing units. Should you dress a unit? Shouldn't you dress a unit? You know, the furniture, that sort of thing, the undersized furniture which some people put in. I would say it depends. Get guided by your agent. The reason your Barretts, your Bellways, your Persimmons do it is they build boxes. And pretty much all their boxes are the same. They just slightly change them. So really, to get people having a vision of how it would work, they put furniture in to try and sell it. Not always necessary in a conversion, particularly if all your flats are slightly different. Now let your agent guide you, but my experience on this is generally where the flats are different, you don't need to spend the money dressing a unit, because you can dress one, but what about the other? Oh, I've got a vision of that unit, but I can't envisage that unit. The way you sell different units in conversion projects, if they're all slightly quirky, particularly industrial buildings, is there's probably only one or maybe two of that shape. And some people will like the one with the bigger bedroom and the slightly sloping ceiling, or the quirky walls, or the odd shaped window, whatever it might be. And there's only one of them. The agent's work then is quite easy in a way. Well, if you want that one, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, of course other names are available. If you want that one, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you need to bid on it now because we've got someone else interested if that's the one you particularly like with that particular shaped bathroom. Do you get my point? Okay, so don't always think about dressing it. A few other things just to finish off that you really want to make sure you've got, and then we're going to answer questions. I can see some coming in the chat box. Make sure you have dimension plans. People want to measure things. Don't make them go in with their tape measure. You've got dimension plans because you built the thing. Provide some of those to the agents. For people that are serious, the agent can hand them out. They can see then when they can fit their furniture in. Make sure your sales pack information is ready and available as you come towards the end of the project. Your specifications, all those sort of things, what bathrooms in it, what types, what ovens, etc., etc. Big it up. Big it up. I mean, laminate worktops are laminate worktops. No one's going to get too excited by it, but you know, you can put a bit of a description together. Marble effects, you know, top range Howden's laminate workshop. Yeah, sure. But do you know what I mean? Granite effect laminate. Well, what's that? It's just a laminate. Do you know what I mean? Hopefully you get that point. And a couple of other things here. Pre-qualification of purchasers, really important. Don't just, when you get an offer, go, oh yeah, take it, let's come. Pre-qual that purchaser, get your agent to. Is it a first-time buyer? If so, have they got a mortgage? Can they get a mortgage? Yeah, I know, I never even applied. You know, get the agent to pre-qualify them before you accept that offer, because you take that offer, it's gone off the market, the agent thinks they sold it, it could run on 2 months, they don't get their mortgage offer, it goes back on the market. It doesn't work. If they're a cash purchaser, are they? Are they in a big chain? Do you want a big chain? Make sure your agent pre-qualifies them. And finally, control the process. Okay, hold your agent accountable. Okay, don't just assume they're doing a good job. They're agents. No disrespect, but they are. Just make sure you're on top of them every week. Report. I want a written report. Who's viewed, who hasn't, what's the follow-up, etc., etc. And so really some tips and tricks there in terms of how you actually make sure that actually what you build will sell. But I think the most fundamental thing, work in the need market, not the want market. There we go. Hopefully that helps. Should we take some questions, Ian?
I think we should. Yeah, and if anybody has got any, what did you call it, undersized furniture, then pop it in the chat, because we could pop it in Rich's office to make it look bigger.
Hey, I knew where that was going, and I think, you know, I mean, in terms of your normal standard of jokes, I would say that one's pretty good. So a little round of applause there. Give us a wave if you liked Ian's joke. Oh, no waves. Anyway, Ian, let's go for some questions.
Okay, stick to the news, it says here. Cool. Okay, we've got one here. This is from Carolyn. Hello, Carolyn. How much weight should you put on an estate agent's view of what will sell? I know sometimes they can be over optimistic. Okay, optimistic, very polite word for it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You need to have a little bit of take certain things with a pinch of salt. I think that the key thing here is that you need to do your own market analysis before you start. I think it's what can happen. Some people come and they go and speak to an agent. The agent will give them a price, and they think, "Oh, that's great. That's what I can sell these for." Don't know whether it's right or wrong, but that's the price that's been given. I think next level is to ask some questions about, you know, some of the demographics and so on and so forth. But the smart move really is to do your homework beforehand. So if you're going to go and meet with some agents, make sure that you've gleaned what you can from the internet, from places like the property portals, trying to look at what's on offer, what the prices are, what, you know, getting a feel for the size, what parking is available, how many of the competition are going to have parking places, stuff like that. And then when you have the meeting with the agent, where you're basically there to find out for sure what price is going to sell for, but also all of those kind of demographic data that Richie was talking about earlier, then you let them go first. And if they spin you a line, if they tell you that yeah, you'll be able to sell it for a small fortune, you've got some information in your back pocket that you can then use to query that. So you'll then work out whether there's a valid reason why your information is different to theirs, or whether, yeah, they're just being over optimistic. I think the other thing to do, make sure that you're speaking to multiple agents. You need at least 3, and I would do more than that, to make sure that you're getting a representative view. We've all seen the TV shows where they do a makeover and the agent goes in, and then it's like a massive kind of disparate view, different view of what the price is. You may well get that, in which case, yeah, you want to speak to agents. Am I allowed to give a free tip?
You can give free tips. Well, you can't. Well, I think the important thing is you can't charge for it, because we have no ability to take money.
No card payments or anything. What a shame. So the tip was going to be, if you want to know which agents to speak to first, go on to Rightmove, put in the parameters for what you're selling, so 1-bedroom flat or whatever, in the price range, and then put in your postcode and get a kind of a quarter of a mile or half a mile radius, and then go on to map view and make sure you've got the box ticked with properties that are sold, and you'll see who's selling in your street. A lot of agents, they might cover your area, they might cover the street that you're going to be selling in, but they might not have sold anything in that street for years, because they've got a small agency and they cover quite a big area. You want to be talking to people that have sold like in the last few months, and if you go on Rightmove, you'll be able to see exactly who's doing what, and that will tell you the kind of movers and shakers, the best people for you to go and speak to. There you go, a free tip. What about that?
Can't be bad, can it? Do you know, I love those programs. I think it's something like Homes Under the Hammer, where they go back and revalue. And the thing that makes me laugh, and my daughter will sometimes watch these, and we'd laugh at these type of things, where they walk in the room with a clipboard, and of course there's a cameraman in there, isn't there, because they're filming it, and they walk in and they sort of look around and go, oh yes, okay, interesting. None of them are surprised that there's a cameraman crouched in the corner. Not one of them looks at the camera. I think it's brilliant stuff. And even when they show people around, they look, oh, a big bathroom, there's a cameraman stood in the shower filming. Makes me laugh, that stuff. Okay, that's a good tip. Thanks, Ian, says Jenny. Oh, by the way, she typed applause in earlier. Good stuff. Okay, Roshan's. Yeah, you got applause. Can you believe that?
Unbelievable.
Oh, unbelievable. Anyway, let's hope for you, yeah, Ian. Okay, Roshan says, if there is a demand for big houses in certain areas, can that not then be classed as the need market? Oh, controversial, pushing the boundaries. Yeah, look, Roshan, it can. What I just want you to be careful of is, so big houses in certain areas. So we're in the country just outside the main town up here. The city is Winchester. Okay, Winchester is probably the area outside of London, which is at London prices, if not sometimes higher. Very high value area. Okay, now that area, if you find a plot in Winchester and you can build either a conversion or a new build high-end house, pretty much, Roshan, it will sell. Okay, it'll pretty much sell any year, any time, any day, probably for the asking price, because that marketplace it always has been strong. Would I do that? I wouldn't. Okay, I wouldn't. Now, the reason I wouldn't do that is because it still has the ability to fall away. You're talking about generally much higher net worth individuals, or maybe quite high net worth individuals if you're doing a pretty big house. Okay, and stock market changes, things like that can wipe out their money quite quickly. So it's quite a fickle market in that respect. It can change. Winchester is a bit of an oddity, but it can change. My concern as well is in that marketplace, the demands of the buyers are high. What the buyers want in terms of the quality of what you're going to deliver is very high. And there's not so many buyers. So sometimes, you've got to work a bit harder to get them. And when they turn up, okay, they really can be quite picky. And sometimes you've got to respond to that. So I don't like that marketplace personally. And I would say if you can find a need marketplace, which is much more the 3-bed and below, it's easier. It's an easier place. So I never say never, Roshan, but I would say, yeah, just be careful. That perhaps is something you need to consider. And by the way, tonight, Jenny's comments are by Roman. Jenny's not on, it's Roman, but he's pretending he's Jenny tonight.
So the applause was from Roman. Thank you, Roman.
Well, I guess so. I mean, it's bizarre that people pretend to be other people. I don't know why people do that. No. Next question, Ian.
Next question is from Jackie. Well, at least we think it's Jackie. Could be somebody else. Hi, Jackie. You mentioned looking onto planning websites to see what else is going to be built. How do you find these websites? Okay, planning websites. So basically, every local planning authority has got a planning portal, countrywide. So basically, find your local one that covers the area for your project. They've all got a search facility, so you can see what's on there. What you want to be doing, obviously, is looking for the property that you're going to be bidding on. So has there been any planning permission on that property before? But you can see all of the planning applications that have been made recently anyway in the surrounding area. And it's a great way of picking up some free information, really, because what you'll see is everybody's planning applications. So there are some sort of private, like names and email addresses and so on that have been redacted. But in the main, all of the information is there. You'll see all of the applications. You'll then see what the planning department's initial response is. If it's been decided, you'll get the decision notice, so agreed or refused. You'll also get the responses from people that have been complaining about, we don't want this on our street because of X, Y, and Z. And so it enables you to pick up a whole load of information about what are the concerns for the locals, what are the concerns of the council, what are the things that they're focusing on. And it can be things like parking, obviously a big one, traffic, lots of different issues that can come to pass that are kind of area specific. So I think it's a whole kind of font of information free information for you to get to look at lots of recent applications that are happening in the kind of immediate area around your property, and who knows, there might even be one for your property as well. So I hope that helps, Jackie.
Good stuff. Monica put a good point. When I was talking about Roshan's question of the big houses, Monica says, good advice, thank you. Limited exits to be avoided. Yeah, do you know, I think just to pick up on that point, Monica, it's a good point that you've raised there. Made me think of something else to perhaps to attack on to Roshan's question. When we're talking in the need market, I didn't really talk about this earlier, but yeah, all our students know, and it's important that anyone here knows, even if you're not a student of ours, is you always have to have 2 exits on everything you do. Normally, it's sell it or rent it. 1, 2, 3-bed houses are pretty easy to rent or sell. Big houses, 5-bed houses or whatever, are more difficult to rent. Again, if there's a downturn in the market, you know, those things people don't, they go for something smaller. They survive. You know, particularly some big 4 or 5 bedroom houses, you know, we're often talking £3,000–4,000 a month to rent those type of places. That is not the sort of money that people shell out very easily. That marketplace is much more limited. So, Monica, really good point. I'd definitely say, yeah, 2 exits, and the high-end houses limit those exits. Ramika put a question in. Ramika, hello to you. He says, do I need to send a surveyor before buying a site? What kind of survey do I need? RICS, contamination, noise, etc. Look, yeah, Ramika, the important thing here is before you buy a site, you need to know everything about that site and understand it. Not necessarily a survey. This is not like buying a house where you're going to get a surveyor go around and tell you whether you've got a bit of brickwork damage or you need some tiles replaced on the roof, because you're generally going to be buying a commercial property and you're going to be doing a huge amount of work on it. The people that really need to go around that are your industry professionals. And as we teach you, it's going to be, you know, your architect hopefully will have seen it. Your structural engineer definitely will have seen it. Okay. Maybe your cost consultant has been round or had some information from the others, and definitely your planning consultant understands what it's about. I probably would take my estate agent round as well and make sure he or she is really happy with the location, or they spot something that really they don't want. In terms of contamination, your structural engineer could feed information on that. Noise, the architect could give you some steerage on that. So those few professionals are the ones that I would definitely want to have seen my property before I buy it. Not necessarily before I put a bid in. I might put a bid in, and then subject to my bid being accepted, I then might bring those industry professionals round. But not necessarily a surveyor. That's much more domestic property. Hopefully that helps. Ian, next question.
Thank you. One here from Ricky. Good evening, Ricky. And Ricky asks, when you talk about pre-qualification of purchasers, would you consider turning a potential purchaser away if they didn't say the right things? So basically, absolutely. So what Richie was talking about there was when you're working with your estate agent. So you built whatever it is you built. The estate agent that you've appointed is then selling the units, and let's just say you've got half a dozen flats to sell. Then ultimately, you know, what are you after? You definitely want good offers, but the problem is with all buyers is it's a question of proceedability. Are they going to be able to complete on the deal? And of course, your worst case scenario is that somebody makes an offer, you accept it, and then 3 months down the line, it all falls out of bed because they were really flaky, couldn't get the finance, or this happened or that happened, or they just pulled out, and you're then back to square one. And 3 months is a long time in property development. You're likely to be able to sell your units in that period. And if you've got one left, which is obviously going to have your profit in it, you're not going to be able to, you know, everybody goes back to the start. So the key thing is by having that pre-qualification kind of in place at the start, absolutely, you're going to be able to kind of nail that down. So as Richie said, if it's people that don't have a mortgage decision, so they don't know whether they're going to be able to get the finance, maybe they are a cash buyer, but they don't have proof of funds. So you want to get the agent to accept, can we see that you've got the cash? Are they in they've sold their property, but it's in a chain about 5 miles long. So it could be a long time before that unwinds. And if they're an investor, have they bought properties before, or are they kind of new to the whole thing? Again, it's just being able to work out the quality of the buyer, the likelihood that they're going to proceed. And of course, to some extent, beggars can't be choosers. If you've got a lot of interest in your flats, then you can afford to be pickier. Perhaps where you haven't, you've got less interest, then you might actually be more inclined to kind of let those people through. but work with your agent and make sure that they are acting as the gatekeeper on those. And then if they're, you should be asking those questions of the agent as well when they're putting offers forward. There you go, Ricky. Hope that helps. Richard.
I think we could add to that, Ian, as well. One problem you might sometimes get is you almost tarnish the property. There's often a bit of suspicion. Well, how come that fell out of bed? Why did they pull out? So a new buyer sometimes can go into that a little bit apprehensive. So just be careful of that you don't get that situation. Sean's question. Hello, Sean. Good evening. He said, what sort of adjacent buildings, okay, or uses would put you off developing out of site? Yeah, do you remember I talked about what's next door? Well, a pylon next door would put me off. A nightclub, a pub. I mean, I once I saw this beautiful cottage that was right in a little village, and I thought, God, that looks lovely. I really like the look of that. And I said to my wife, what about that? That would be great. And she said, you do know that's right next door to a pub? Well, I didn't, because I'd not looked on Street View. I just looked at the agent's details, which were very carefully photographed. And of course, it was a pub that was known to have live bands in an outside undercover area. So I wouldn't be next door to a pub. I wouldn't be next door to a nightclub. I don't want to be next door to a fish and chip shop or a chunky chicken takeaway or whatever it all is. I don't know. So I don't want to be near those sort of places. I don't want to be next door to a workshop, a car garage, stuff that is going to operate in different times to what I'm operating. So if I'm going to be sleeping at night or having a lie-in on a Saturday morning, I don't want someone working Saturday morning right outside my window. So it's about conflicting uses, okay, Sean? That's what I would say. If it doesn't seem congruent with what you're trying to put there, I wouldn't buy it, or I wouldn't look to buy that building and develop it out. Hopefully, it's logic. It's logic. I think the question, Sean, ask yourself, would it make any difference to you? Okay, would it make any difference to you? Roman's put a 24/7 petrol station. Absolutely, no way you want to go near that at all. Cars starting up, stopping. The noisiest part of a car is when it starts up, and people coming out late at night, chit chat. You don't want it. Sean, hopefully that helps. Ian.
People always mention petrol stations when you're on. I've noticed pubs and petrol stations. There must be a theme there.
Well, they're going to suggest in a minute. Someone's going to suggest in a minute. Can we convert petrol stations or pubs? Well, before you even do that and try and get a little bit funny this evening, no. Next question.
I think that's what Roman's I think leading up to. That's why he's come undercover as Jenny, because he's going to ask you to can he convert a pub. This one is from it's from Gary. Hello, Gary. Can you tell me how I would work out the type of people that would buy units? I think you called it purchaser demographics. Well, absolutely. There's a certain amount of information that you can get from kind of your desktop research when you look online in terms of the local area. Certainly, you can look at the types of property that are available, so you can see what are the type of flats that are available. Is the area mainly kind of houses and not flats? Is there a propensity to, a lot of bungalows and so on? So you can get some clues from the property in the area. You can also do quite a lot of desktop research with regards to the area itself. Yeah, ultimately, the people that are going to know are going to be the agents. So you want to be able to get those appointments with, I would definitely 3 and preferably more residential agents locally, and that's where you're asking that question. As Richie mentioned earlier, there's quite a lot of things that can come into play there with regards to the demographics in terms of the design of the flats that you're looking at. Particularly with things like downsizers. I think you mentioned that they've got bulky furniture, so they need bigger rooms, particularly lounge in the bedroom. Whereas for some demographics, they absolutely will want parking. Again, you can do some research on that. You can look, there's a little button on Rightmove, just check it and uncheck it to see how many flats have got parking, how many don't have parking, and that give you a bit of a clue as to what the supply and demand situation is in the area. So, but talking to agents is going to be absolutely critical. I think that's going to be the best way of kind of firming up what the demographics are likely to be for what you're going to build. Hope that helps, guys.
I think just an interesting one there, just a little slightly off piece, but attached to it. I remember when my parents downsized, it was all about the piano. Would the piano fit in? And they had to have a downsized property, but with a big enough sitting area that actually they could fit the piano in, which was a bit of a disappointment because my dad plays the violin. Anyway, next question. Daryl says, good evening, Daryl. He says, if you're buying at auction, would you get all your professional team to view before bidding, or is there time between winning at auction and closing? there's definitely no time between winning and closing, well, unless it's about 30 seconds. Okay, basically at auction, Daryl, and for anyone, when your hand goes up, you put your paddle up with your number on it, you've bought it. Bang, that's it, it's yours. Okay, that is a contractual arrangement. You can try and leg it, but they probably got your details because you wouldn't have had the number in the first place otherwise. So you are deemed to have bought it. You've then got so many days, you've got to put a deposit down. Now you could pull out, but you're legally obliged to buy it, so you're definitely going to lose some money. So it is before. All auction properties will have open days beforehand. And what I would say is review the catalogue, lot number, have a look at it. If you're really interested in it, be careful, because sometimes there's only one open day, maybe there's two, and they're quite busy. They might restrict the numbers. They might not let you back twice. So if necessary, take your professionals. You know, this is about you building a professional team, and you might have to pull a couple of favors or pay them, you know, and then take them down and go around. I'd always pick them up. Okay, I'd arrange to meet them in a coffee shop or a hotel somewhere, drive down in one car, because the last thing you want, if you've got a slot that the auctioneer is giving you and they don't rock up because they've got a meeting and then you don't make that slot, you've missed that opportunity. So I would always pick them up and go with them and have a wander around if you need to do that. At worst, if you can't get them there, Daryl, take photographs. Okay, take lots of photographs, take some video footage and then show them. But if you're at all uncertain, don't bid. Okay, if you're too uncertain, don't bid, because once the hammer's down, it's yours. Ian.
Thank you. Got one here from Adair. Good evening, Adair. I am brand new to development, and I've been trying to see if there are deals out there before I really commit to getting into it, but I found the commercial agents don't seem to want to speak with me. What can I do? Okay, so I think this is the question of kind of getting it the right way around. So as we were mentioning earlier, that proceedability is pretty key. It's key for you when you're selling your flats, but of course it's key to any agent, commercial or residential, when they're faced with a potential buyer. Having a good offer is great. That's all fantastic, and you won't get anywhere with a bad offer. But it's got to be, you've also got to be proceedable. And I suspect what's happening here is that if you're kind of testing the water, so you're coming across as, yeah, this is something that I'd quite like to get into, but you don't have anything behind you. You don't have a business, you don't have a brand, you don't have perhaps some of that kind of collateral that would give a commercial agent confidence that you're kind of in the right place. And that can be things, doesn't have to be rocket science, but things like a business card, a website that basically just sort of underpins the message that you're giving them and paints a picture of your business and what you're doing. Then yeah, I'm not sure that they're necessarily going to be treating you with that the same level of credibility, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for people that are serious. And so when they're obviously going to the effort of doing viewings, making appointments, having conversations and dialogue, to kind of meetings to kind of get buyers into the top of their kind of sales funnel, and yeah, they're going to be focusing on the ones that they think are serious. Obviously they're going to have a core of people that they know already. They're always open, for fairly obvious reasons, to new buyers coming in, but I think they're going to be kind of working out, trying to sort out, if you like, the wheat from the chaff. And so you've got to look strong. And I would say that the way around of doing it is get your kind of branding behind you first, get a little bit of education so that you know what you're doing, and so that when you have those conversations, and also when you analyze the deals, so you're trying to find out if there's some deals that stack up, but do you know how to do that? Are you able to get some numbers that make sense so that you can actually decide, yeah, this is a viable project? But I think for you, it makes sense to do it in the right way around. So before you engage with agents, make sure the shop window's looking as good as it can do. Make sure you know what you're after, so that you come across as a professional and somebody that is proceedable. So if that you find a good deal, the agent is going to have some confidence that you're going to be able to go ahead with it. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Good stuff. Right, last question for this evening. I know there's lots of other questions in the chat box, but we do our best to get through as many. But Milesh, yours is going to be the last one. Question. Evening, both. Would or do you request reservation fees when selling on a conversion project? I think it's selling on any project, and I think be guided by your agent. But yeah, reservation fees can work quite well. You need to talk to your agent and your legal people whether they can be refundable or not, because there are certain rules and regs around it, whether you can keep hold of them. But I think the commitment that someone sticks down £1,000 is a commitment. Whilst it could still be refundable, there is always this nervousness of someone who's actually, is it refundable? Will I get it back? Okay. And so I think that's massively important that they've made that commitment to you. They're not going to put £1,000 deposit down if they're not, because they will have a small element of uncertainty, even if it's promised that there'll be a refund. So yeah, definitely, I think a deposit works extremely well, whether it's new build or whether it's conversion. I'd always try and encourage that, unless an agent would tell me otherwise. Well, guys, look, it's just gone 2:15. We always make sure we get your way just after 2:15, because I know you don't want to listen to, well, you probably do want to listen to us all evening, but you know, it's just not fair if we take all your time like that. Your family deserves more of your time as well. Ian, have you enjoyed this evening?
I've loved it. I'm actually feeling quite hungry. I might nip down the chunky chicken takeaway.
I don't know what you call those places. What do they call those places? I was trying to think what they call it. Oh, is it fried chicken or something like that? Those places. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like a chicken bath. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Please, as always, pop in the chat box if you've enjoyed tonight's show. We put the show on for you. Any comments, well, polite or otherwise, we don't mind. Mildly amusing. Stick it in the chat box if you've enjoyed this evening. That would be great. If anyone out there is new to property, and I know someone was this evening at a comment, I can't remember who that was. Adair, you were. If Adair, anyone else wants to come and join us on a free, totally free, then half-day training session, come and join us. It's called a six-figure roadmap. propertyceo.co.uk. That's pretty simple to remember. /SFR, six-figure roadmap, /SFR. Come and join us completely for free. Next week's show is at 7 o'clock, same time on Thursday the 3rd. And we have our great friend, John Ireland from Legacy Wills. We are going to have a right old cheery evening, because we're going to be talking about the two things that are almost certain in life, death and taxes.
What's not to like?
Property CEO going to make death and taxes upbeat on the Open Door webinar show.
We'll do our best.
You're going to have to come and join us to find out. But the more important thing is, you don't want to give your assets away. You property people, you've got to hang on to them. Don't miss next week's show. John is really knowledgeable and he's a great character as well. So we're really looking forward to having him on the show. So what do people say? Let's have a look. Who said what? Piri piri, said Ramika. Piri piri what? Oh, piri piri chicken. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, wine time now, says Monica. Good stuff. Go for your wine. Great show, guys, says Dan. Adair says, thanks for the advice. I'm really looking forward to getting development. I will join you on the SFR. Good stuff. What about the fish and chips? Ramika says Ian's favourite is fish and chips. I love it. Thanks. Stimulating once again. Thanks for you both, gents. No rant tonight, Richie. Well done. You know, I can have a little rant every now and then. You want to do pubs? Don't do pubs. There you go. Small rant just to keep you happy. Happy hunting, says Damien. Happy hunting. Hunting? Yeah, okay, whatever. I don't know what he's talking about. Hunting. That's got me. Thanks for a good show as always, says Yvonne. Yvonne, thanks for that. We enjoy being here. See you next week with John Ireland. Should be a bit of fun. Good night now.
Good night.